Obsession is a good movie that I almost didn't watch. At time of recording, a movie Obsession is out in theaters, and if you've spent any amount of time on YouTube, you probably have heard about it. And if you're like me, the first video essay that you saw made it somewhat interesting and made it sound a little bit compelling enough for you to watch it. But then the videos just kind of kept coming. You watch one video and the algorithm kind of recommends to you other videos that evaluated the movie. And then before you know it, you have like 50 videos of a bunch of people who you've never really heard of, people whose channels you're not really interested in watching, and people telling you why you need to watch it or giving you their hot takes on this movie. Ironically, the internet seems pretty obsessed with the movie Obsession, and it seems to me like it's kind of this perfect storm of very crappy content being made, um, where you can kind of give your little political hot take. So from this point forward, I'm gonna introduce a couple of spoilers, but long story short, if you want to stop here, I think it's a good movie. I think you should watch it. If you don't, I think the less that you hear from other people, the better it would be for you to actually experience the movie. But the first video I watched made it sound somewhat interesting. I realized that there was a YouTube the director whose name I'm drawing a blank on uh, directed this movie, and it made me interested. Algorithm loaded me up with all these other videos to the point to where I literally said, I don't want to watch this movie anymore because I'm getting annoyed at how many people are telling me that I watch it. Or there was all this talk about the incel culture and how this movie is talking about incel. It wasn't until I saw a video from FD Signifier where he talked about the movie, where he was actually able to somewhat. Uh, I think it's maybe because he's old and he's not trying to over exacerbate or do the bullshit YouTube video essay thing, where the entire YouTube algorithm just kind of seems to favor, but it makes the entire message seem insincere, and it makes it to where YouTube is no really longer a fun place for me to be a lot of the time. And he was actually able to have his own interesting take without it being some sort of like unique hot take. Um, but everybody else was just like insanely annoying about this movie. I have never heard anybody actually say that Bear was a victim in this movie. And maybe there was one or two YouTubers that might say this. There might be a fringe group of people online that are saying this, but the amount of people that hype up this idea that people who watch or somehow watch this movie somehow came away with the idea that Bear was the victim, uh, and just wanted to be able to say, but it's actually Nikki, and it just seemed a little bit smelling your own farts. Movie's about a guy named Bear. He's a little bit of a nervous pussy, and he can't really ask this girl out. He has a friend group that's not really the best friend group, and he basically wishes for this little wish willow thing that she would love him more than anybody else in the world, and she becomes obsessed with him, and that's kind of where the horror movie starts. I think it's not hot, like there's nothing that anybody has actually said, especially after seeing this movie. After seeing this movie, it's made me hate YouTube videos even more because I feel like anybody who would easily tell you that it's very clearly like coded in abuse, and there's a scene that's like coded in that's definitely behavior on behalf of the main character who just gives you every reason to think that basically he kind of is deserving of what's happening to him. And again, the YouTube algorithm, for some reason, this movie was perfect for anybody and everybody to tell you what to think about this movie to the point to where it made me not interested in seeing it because I was not interested in seeing a movie that was either so obvious to where its message would be that consistent amongst a bunch of different people, or where a bunch of people just wanted to tell me what I was supposed to think about this movie. But there are a lot of interesting things, and ironically, I do think FD Signifier had the best view. I think that different men are going to, when they see this movie, they have different points where they are no longer on the side of Bear. I think at the very beginning of the movie, Bear's like a character that like maybe you think he's pathetic, but maybe you can kind of like understand like, hey, he's just a nervous fucking introvert kind of guy. Uh, and like, there's various points in the movie where Bear is kind of misstepping, and he's basically showing himself to be the person in the wrong situation over and over and over. Where if you do watch the entire movie and you still come away with the idea that Bear's not the bad guy, you need therapy probably. I think it's that obvious. It's so painfully obvious that I think that anybody who would criticize this movie or say that Bear was the victim, or that Bear did nothing wrong, kind of thing, would basically just have to be paid, or just would be trying to troll or shitpost, or just are in complete denial of a bunch of shitty things that maybe they felt in common with him. But overall, like, I'm really glad I actually ended up watching this movie. The cinematography for this movie, fan fucking tastic. But the way that the female character Nikki, they make her stay in the shadows, the way that she kind of changes her attitudes. There's one moment where she makes a face that is a little bit silly, and it's kind of took me out of the movie a little bit. And she it was when she was like frowning. It was a little bit goofy. But other than that, I mean, they really there's a lot of moments in this movie where you either can't see her face or you can barely see her face. And I don't know if it's a trick of the lighting. I don't know if it's CGI. I don't know if it's makeup. But it almost looks like there's something wrong with her face, but there isn't. It's just the way that she is being presented in the movie is so well shot that it basically tells you to be scared of her. And especially seeing it in the movie theater with the surround sound, the most terrifying parts for me was when Nikki was either yelling or when she was basically kind of getting what she wanted or felt like she was getting that her security in that relationship where she would kind of immediately calm down. That was very ooh, it was fantastic. Reminded me a little bit too much of some real relationship situations. Not quite that bad, obviously, but real relationship situations that I've been in. Very 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 uncomfortable in a movie with a lot of cognitive dissonance. Now there are issues with this movie that I do have. For one, it's that Bear, and I think the so it's Bear and Nikki. Nikki plays the female, and then they have two friends: a guy friend named Ian and a girl, and the female friend named Sarah. And the sheer amount of concern but action that they take doesn't match up. I understand that this is a movie and like you can kind of suspend your disbelief a little bit. Maybe it's because they're young. Maybe they're just kind of like a little bit like chill bro kind of people. I really do think that they did not have appropriate reactions to a lot of the things that they saw from between Nikki and Bear, and I think it got to the point to where it was very unrealistic and it was very weird. The messaging of the movie was also pretty weird too. I mean, the I I don't know if it's just because of mixed messages that I maybe have received watching this movie. The beginning of the movie, they almost make you feel like Nikki actually likes Bear before he makes a wish that she would love him more than anybody in the world. Um, and it's very weird. So they basically say that at one point, well, after she's already like madly in love with him because of a wish, they tell at one point he's told that she was going to basically dump him, or not dump him, but reject him because she viewed him more as a little brother than like a romantic partner. All right, whatever. Um, I think that that was somewhat of thrown off. I feel like it was a little bit better coded in the beginning of the movie, or I feel like they just did a really good job making you think that Nikki might have actually liked them. I don't know if they did that on purpose or not, it really just seemed like she was sending a couple of signals to where if he would have just asked her out, she might have said yes. But then they kind of threw that whole thing in there in the middle of it. Then we get to Ian. Ian is the worst written character in this fucking movie. I hate Ian. I hate this. I hate Ian almost as much as I hate Bear in this movie. But Ian is the guy in the beginning of the movie where Bear's trying to find a way to ask out Nikki. And basically, in the beginning, like he's rehearsing what to say to Ian. And there's like a waitress there. He says something that's very emotionally vulnerable to the point where even the waitress says that was really beautiful. But then Ian's like, "Nah, that shit's gay, bro." And then it's kind of it's kind of weird because he keeps telling him to like wait for the right time to ask out Nikki, or he seems to be almost encouraging for him to be going out with Nikki until they're actually dating. Um, and then all of a sudden, Ian is very concerned about Bear and Nikki because at one point Nikki lies to Bear about why she's acting so strange. She's acting strange because the witch kind of changed her personality and like there's kind of like this thing. It's like almost like demon possessed coded, but not quite. Um, where like the lie that Nikki or whatever's taking control of Nikki it says is like she's her dad's dying of cancer. And then Ian basically calls him and like lets him know like, hey, something weird's happening. Her dad's not dying of cancer. She lied to you. So they really try to make him seem like a good friend. And then randomly you find out in the middle or towards the end of the movie that Ian and Nikki were regularly sleeping together until Nikki started dating Bear. And it just seems like that wasn't. It felt like it kind of came out of nowhere, and I think I don't know if it was trying to make me view Ian as the shitty friend that he is, but that whole thing just made it to where the entire movie of him seemingly trying to help Bear, but being like just a shitty dumb college bro guy, just turned him into kind of a fuck boy that like never really cared about Bear. And I guess in the beginning of the movie where they're talking about trivia night and they say that I guess Bear's supposed to be the smart guy in the group and like it almost makes you feel like he's using Bear at that point in time, but he still invites Bear over and he still has like this weird friendly persona. It just seems very weird to me that they would even include that in the movie or that just kind of the way it was presented was supposed to be like this kind of betrayal from Ian, but like they just make him not only incompetent in being helpful, but I can't tell if they were trying to make him like, oh, like I was actually trying to sabotage you and Nikki. I didn't want you to be together because maybe she does like you and I'm lying about it. They didn't really do a good job explaining this stuff. And he's still trying to be friends with Bear at the end of the movie. It's just very weird to me why they would even include that. And then Sarah, who is probably the best written character in this movie, I think that she basically they did a really good job with the idea that Sarah actually is sexually interested in Bear, and they actually gave a really good reason why she would ignore Nikki because she told that in confidence to Nikki, and it almost makes you feel like she maybe have felt that Nikki was just kind of dating Bear just to kind of get back at Sarah, or that maybe Nikki got a little bit possessive because she would be worried that she wouldn't be getting that attention. Sarah seems like the biggest other than Nikki. Sarah seems like definitely the second biggest victim in this movie, especially for how she dies, which is pretty fucking violent. But especially the arguments between Bear and Nikki were so well done. It actually kind of almost puts you in the fucking place, puts you in the room of an actual dangerous and scary domestic violence case. I may have had a couple of flashbacks to some prior relationships or to when I was a child and my parents would argue at Christmas time, which I didn't know was still a thing that I could have feelings about at the age of 30. But that's a thing that I remembered very vividly watching this movie, which was honestly the scariest thing was just a lot of the memories that it kind of brought up in me. Maybe it's why I liked it a lot better than some of the other people that may have watched it. I'm not really too sure. But it was also just different. It was a very different movie that was a very simplistic story told a lot better than it really needed to have been told. It could have been a very easy cash grab. You can tell that they worked really hard on this movie, and I really do highly recommend it. I also highly recommend just ignoring or forgetting about anything that anybody said up until this point. Even myself, if I'm being honest with you, it's honestly not that helpful to really know about this movie or to really be given an opinion presented as like sort of a gift wrapped present for you because I think like it's a better thing to kind of watch and absorb and try to feel for yourself a little bit. It's not really like one of those scary movies where you're just gonna like be worried about the jump scares, even though it will fake you out a little bit.